Hello, friends. How are y'all doing today? It's lovely to see you at whatever time of day you're calling in from. Um, Today, yeah, welcome back to the Nature Journal Educators Forum. I almost said Pencil Miles and Chill. That's wrong. And we're happy to have you. So if that's what you were looking for, you're in the right place. I'm going to turn the floor over to our guest, our amazing guest, Sara Bellis, who is calling us from the UK with an incredible program called Out Get Arty. We've heard about this at a previous session and heard about the things that Sara's creating and the things that she's excited about for the future. And I know that it also ties into a theme we discuss about accessibility and I'm going to let Sara talk more about it herself. So everybody, let's give lots and lots of love to Sara. And here, I'm going to spotlight Sara now, and then I'm going to let Billie Joe do the spotlighting. Okay, go ahead, Sara.
Brilliant. Thank you. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Great stuff. Excellent. Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity to tell you a bit more about Out Get Arty. We are called GOGA for short. So if I just slip into calling it GOGA, that's what I mean is Get Out Get Arty. My plan is to just share a few slides with you and just talk for the next kind of 10-15 minutes to give you a bit of a flavor about what we're all about, how the community started, what inspired me, what kind of things we do when we all get together, and how the community works. And then after that, if anybody's got any questions about any aspect of that or anything in general about the kind of people that I work with, do feel free to just kind of do the usual thing, like raise a hand or just kind of give me a wave, and we'll do our best to answer those questions. So if you can bear with me just a little bit, I'm going to just share my screen, and hopefully, can everyone see that okay?
Yep.
Great stuff. That's good. Okay, hang on, let's get it back again. There we are. Okay, so this is us. We have a logo and everything, which is really quite new. And yeah, there it is. GOGA, Get Out, Get Arty. I want to just explain a bit about why and the background. So a bit of an origin story, if you like. I'm a natural historian by trade and by training. I was born and brought up in London, and I luckily had this really strong, close family that were always taking me out for walks. And so it could be feeding the ducks in the park. Earliest memories would be going for really nice walks in some of the big London parks. And then as I was getting older, I really found out that I was drawn to working outdoors rather than in an office or a classroom. So I did a degree in something called heritage conservation, and it was a really nice mixture of museum work, protecting our heritage, but also actually looking at our natural heritage as well. So things like landscapes and nature reserves and all the wonderful wildlife that the UK had to offer. And so when I graduated from there, I thought that's where I want to work. And cutting a long story short, I ended up working for various organisations, all in jobs that linked people to local wildlife. So I worked for, in the UK, we've got a network of charities called the Wildlife Trusts. And so I worked for one of those for about 10 years. I've worked for the National Trust, the Open University. I've done quite a bit of freelance work, sometimes helping people out with a bit of research on how to find hard to reach groups, how to work with people who find outdoor activities a little bit harder to access or enjoy. So it's been a rich and varied career. And right up until COVID, I was working on a farm here in North Shropshire, working with kids in care and in crisis. So we were taking in young people who would have quite a challenging, disrupted kind of, they didn't have a great start in life. And I worked with a lovely lady called Steph at Treflack Farm to put together a program that really helped them transition from that chaos into somewhere that was a little bit more constructive and perhaps healthier for them. And we looked at growing our own food, we looked at teamwork, a bit of physical work, and we could really see the results in these young people and also their families, just by being in nature and having that connection with something and feeling needed by a community. Unfortunately, COVID pretty much overnight put paid to all of that. And these children sadly went back to their chaotic environments. I lost my work and my income and very quickly had to get a job, a proper job, if you like. And I joined a team that was fairly new, that was working with the NHS. And it was all about social prescribing and the National Health Service in the UK, if COVID hadn't have hit us quite so hard, would have made social prescribing their next big thing. And it turns traditional healthcare on its head. Essentially, in a nutshell, instead of going to the doctor and the doctor asking you, what's the matter with you? We were training clinical teams to actually say, what matters to you? And that was a very different shift in the conversations that we were having, and actually getting a lot more community input into healthcare and well-being. So I did that for about 3 years. And unfortunately, because of the pressures of the job, and I wasn't being outdoors and I wasn't following my own passions anymore, I reached burnout. And I was, I don't mind saying, kind of opening a laptop every morning and bursting into tears and having to shut it again, which is not very sustainable. So I stopped working there, but I really loved the idea and just wanted to get right back to basics. So this is how Get Out, Get Arty was born. It basically started on this lovely idea of being selfish, but you put a hyphen in between the self and the ish. So you're looking after yourself. And it was a recognition of my own need to reconnect to nature, to my own joy, and to my friends and my wider community. And as I said before, I've always worked with people and nature together. And on a practical level, I just decided I'm going to go for a walk in the local woods and I'm going to sketch, because I don't learn to draw. I really enjoy this idea of drawing to learn, because it really gets you observing. And while I was actually recovering from burnout, like so many people in this group, Muir Laws came in. He just popped up on my YouTube algorithm. And these steps of nature journaling and just getting out and enjoying yourself and getting curious, and this whole idea of growth mindset, I thought, wow, yes, this is it, really resonated. So I invited a few friends along, was playing around with this nature journaling idea. They loved it, they invited their friends. And fast forward to November now, 2023, we've got 216 members on Facebook. We've got a growing membership, so people are booking sessions. These are adults at the moment, booking sessions in advance by paying a monthly membership fee. We have 2 weekly workshops on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and we have 2 online sessions a week. Well, mostly weeks. I've just dropped them back a little bit for the winter, but we have a weekly Tuesday GOGA doodle where people just get together and have a cup of tea. And I just wanted to give Mary a little wave, because she's a stalwart of these GOGA doodles and coming out on our workshops and walks, which is really lovely. And also Kate, who's part of the forum. Even though you're based in Hawaii, you are a firm member of GOGA. So thank you very much for your support too. It's lovely. So going from that kind of rather informal self-ish start, I then started to have conversations with local organisations to see if they could help this community grow. And one of the key ones I wanted to mention was Joseph Schneider, an artist based out in the middle of rural North Shropshire at the Rural Art Hub. And he essentially gave me a barn studio funding and really mentored me at a time when I was moving it from a very personal space into a potential business and a big thing, an actual thing. And so we got funding from Shropshire Council, which was part of this community resilience fund after COVID. We realized that actually community were really the answer to a lot of our social isolation issues and challenges. And so they're putting money directly back into the community to help projects like mine really link isolated people together and just get them out on a regular basis, just having a chat, having a coffee, and then growing your skills and confidence in lots of different ways. So now we have a website, we have a membership zone, and as I said before, we've got online sessions. Basically, I won't spend too long on this, but I was asked before, how does it work? How do I make it happen? Where does all the money come from? I'm not sure how the US kind of employment law and business law works, but in the UK, you can be a sole trader. So you just go out and you earn your money and you put that money into your bank account. So most of the fees that I charge at the moment go into my business bank account. I've got quite a bit of pressure to set up as some kind of charity, and the one that I'm looking at is a community interest company where any profit I make has to go right back into the community as well. So I'm looking at that. The government have kindly supported me to pay the bills, so I'm on benefits to February 24, and I kind of see that as having the stabilizers on my bike, so that they're there financially, and I've got a work coach who gives me advice and support and encouragement, but that's only for a year. So after that time, I've got to really be making this work, or I've got to go and get a job basically and change how GOGA works. There's a little bit of information there on how much I charge. And I also ask for donations, and I've set up a website there where people can donate anything from £5 as a one-off thing to, for businesses, I'm encouraging them to then sponsor or underwrite our work to about £150 a month. We also get a lot of in-kind help from the local community. So we are very lucky in that we get offered free or very low cost spaces that are complete with the all important tea, coffee, biscuits and toilets. And we also, I go out to art fairs and craft events as well, and I sell little greetings cards and art that I make as well, so that provides a bit of income. I just wanted to share with you a little bit of feedback as well that we've been getting. And the photograph there is really nice. I don't know if any of you can kind of zoom in onto the screen, because that's going to embarrass Mary. That's her nature journal page. And it's just beautiful. It really is. It's sort of encapsulating that lovely balance between the words and the pictures and the numbers. The colours on that photograph are basically us like smushing berries into the page and experimenting and playing around with natural colour. And it's really relaxed and informal and positive. I don't advertise it as a health and well-being thing. I advertise it as just a get out, get arty, and therefore it attracts lots of different people. We get men and women coming along. I haven't actually worked with children just yet, but it's something I would very much like to do. But for the adults that turn up, I think they're getting a lot out of it. And the feedback, as I'm talking, I don't know if you wanted to just have a little read through some of these gorgeous comments that I've been getting, which is like rocket fuel. It just gets me up and out and back out there again, because you know that it really is making a difference. The most recent thing that I've noticed as well, and I'm having conversations around, which might be something for a future session, is nature journaling and gentle exercise is actually helping some people manage their pain. So we've got examples of people within the community who've got physical pain from chronic health conditions, and they're finding that with a little bit of gentle coaching, regularity, consistency, they're actually kind of potentially, and this is only one example, reducing the amount of medication, pain relief medication that they're on, and they are instead planning their journaling time in the day. So they might be having a bad pain day, but they're saying, it's all right, I've got my journal in my bag and I'm going to journal, what's it on the halfway down the page, I'm going to draw away that sadness, or I'm going to journal away my pain and just lower that down. So I'm feeding all of this back to the NHS and the local community organisations because I think it is of interest. What next for GOGA? I've got a big kind of a spreadsheet open on my desk at home, and I'm just kind of putting things in the diary to see what we could do in 2024. And one of them I mentioned earlier, which was about changing how my organisation works, going from just me, but how do I actually grow it into a charity or anything bigger? One thing that I found as it has grown is that there's less time for my own practice. So I'm just looking at ways how to weave what I do back into GOGA itself, because that was the core reason why I did it. So if I end up back full circle with a laptop open and bursting into tears, it's kind of defeated the object. So it's how I then get that ever elusive balance between work and life. I want to get braver. That's quite a personal thing, because having been burnt out, and when you are in a place where you're kind of questioning everything and wondering if you're any good at work or whether you can kind of get back on that bike and get back out there, having something like GOGA is a real a boost. And I want to kind of keep continuing to do that. And actually, I know that we talk about, we're in a comfort zone. How do we then get to the edge of that comfort zone business sense and kind of develop? And I'm finding things like this forum so supportive. You just have that strength. I can almost imagine you behind me. Imagine you behind me as I'm making those choices and saying, what would Billie Joe do? What would Yvea do? What would Mary do? And it is that community that is actually helping me personally feel less isolated. So thank you very much. A part of that, I really want to explore doing longer experiences, maybe overnight stays, field trips to places further away. I know these are very fashionable at the moment. There's so many podcasts that are just kind of everywhere, and they're so wonderful, and they're all about nature connection. But I also think that GOGA has a voice as well. So maybe there is a platform there to capture some of the feedback from people and how they're finding the experience of nature journaling. So any ideas around that, any collaborations that are out there, I think I'd be really open to that. And then, of course, to kind of pay for it all, I really need to be in a place to get those donations, get those grants, get that sponsorship through. And that's becoming more and more important, because I think I've got about 8 weeks before I've got to then go and get some part-time work, or, try and get some money in another way. And then I really want to give back to the Wild Wonder Foundation, because in the background, I've been so kindly supported with kind of funded places and conferences and workshops, and having these wonderful chats with people like Sarah, who I know is here, and watching Star last week, and it just recharges my battery. So if there's a way that I can give back as well and help that community, I'd really like to do that more next year. And then just putting it out there, finding a mentor. I mean, we're a community, so if there is somebody out there who is, this is resonating with, and they could, be there to kind of help the whole thing grow, then let's talk, because yeah, it would be really nice. I thought I'd finish with just a few photos. I won't talk anymore, but just to give you an idea of some of the things we get up to. The top left one, actually, this is Star's idea last week. I really loved this idea of circles and spirals, so I took that to my Thursday group, and they really went for it. So that was a really nice little starter point for us, and we're going to continue with that this week. We've got badges as well. I mean, if you're building a community, it's not just the kids that want badges, right? It's the adults. And I can see, like, I've got loads just made up, and we got a new member today, and straight away she said, where's my badge? I want one. I want to feel part of something. So that's a really nice idea. If you're thinking of setting your own community up, there's examples of journals there. Sometimes we don't draw pictures, we just do colour swatches of things that are in the wood. And the bottom right is, we are really into tree bark rubbing at the moment. We just take a load of wax crayons and oil pastels out and some tissue paper or different coloured paper, And we've made some fabulous creations with them. And we're getting experienced artists doing wonderful things with tissue paper and little fold out books. But then we're getting people who just want to journal their experiences. And there was even one lady who I had to actually get out of a private garden. She just opened the gate and went in there because she'd seen a really nice tree and she was just kind of taking a bark rubbing. So you've got to be careful what you wish for. One activity here that we do, I used to do this a lot with school children because I've got a background in education. So I'm like a forest school leader and spent a long time working in schools doing this kind of thing. And I've got a bag of rainbow chips, and I don't know if anybody else has got these, that you tell the story that, okay, Mary will know this, but I'm friends with the leprechaun who lives at the end of the rainbow, and I go around there and I have a little chat every so often, and we've become firm friends. And he asked me one day, what do you think happens when a rainbow fades or disappears from the sky? And does anybody here tonight have any ideas? Just to give me a break to have a quick drink. Does anybody want to suggest what happens to a rainbow when it disappears from the sky? We can be a little bit whimsical. I know, Kate, you're very good at this. Any ideas?
No? I can say maybe it disappears, or it expands outward and fills everybody's hearts around them with a little bit of color and brightness.
Oh, I love that. Kate, I can't see you, but I know your voice. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, well, that is a really good idea. But what actually happens is that it breaks into a tiny, like lots of little fragments. And I don't know if I can get this slide back because it's on like an altar. There we go. It breaks into lots of little fragments. And then these colors rain down onto the earth all around us. And it's for those who are really good at noticing to actually see those little bits of the rainbow, those fragments of rainbow. And if you're leading a group, I then go, oh, there's a bit over there. There's another little bit. And I'll disappear into the undergrowth and find another little bit. And particularly if adults are there, they do think that I'm, having a moment. But by and large, it's really well received. And I know that when Mary first came, I think we did that with her. And well, she's still coming back, so that's okay. And we invite people to just take a handful of these rainbow chips. And it's a really nice grounding activity. And you go around and you try and find not just green, but that exact green and that exact red and that exact blue. And if they can't see it, then we suggest that they look again and go really, really small. So it could just be a little dot on a leaf or a little speck on a stem of a tiny little flower. Or it could be the way that the light hits a leaf in a certain way. And these chips really kind of change the energy of the group. So for kids, if they've just got off the coach and they're racing around, it's a really nice kind of quieting down, soothing kind of activity. And for perhaps anxious, nervous adults whose first time it is with GOGA, I always like to do a bit of a rainbow chip activity because it's a bit of fun. But it's also a way of really honing those observation skills. And there's an example of some really nice sketches based on that. When we reached 200 members, I planted an acorn for every one of us. So somewhere in there, if you've joined the GOGA Facebook page, one of those has got your name on it, and it's currently being germinated outside in my garden. I've got to go and check on them, but hopefully they're going to be oak trees that are going to go out into the countryside next spring. And who knows, maybe one or two might go on to be absolutely huge ancient trees in a few hundred years' time. We have pets. So some of you might know this chap here, but one of our members called Claire, who was very, very I don't know. I mean, she's very, very lovely, but I kind of sensed there was a sort of, she was not lost, but maybe just a little sadder than she had been in the past. And she bought this little dog and she called it Ian. And Ian has become a total superstar. And here he is posing for the camera. And he's just a really nice distraction as well. So he has become like our therapy dog, and he comes out everywhere with us and has a little bit of our sandwiches and biscuits and cakes and things like that at the end of each session. And one thing that I've started to do is put a hammock in the bag as well. So as a forest school leader, I've had training in all the health and safety and putting up a hammock safely and checking the ground. And we've just started to trust the trees to hold us. And it's quite a nice experience to just lie in a hammock and watch the trees above us move around. And not something we do enough as adults, I think. So it's just a proper coming to a full stop. I did a bit of a residency this summer at a cafe in Shrewsbury, our county town, and we got local community members coming along, and they were bringing their grandchildren. And so we just put a roll of lining paper out on the floor and just put some paint sticks out. And it was really nice, the conversations that we had around nature journaling and well-being. And we realized that it's not just for kids and young people. It is just a huge intergenerational activity that's sparked a lot of curiosity. And I'm talking about collaborations. We've recently been approached by the Marcher Apple Network, who gave us loads and loads of apples, hundreds of apples, and they asked us to taste them, which was, you know, such a sacrifice. It was wonderful to be able to have all these apples. And then we do little tasting notes like you would on wine or tea or coffee. And then we share that information back with the network, who then keep our notes forever to then inform future orchard owners and future apple eaters as to which varieties are the sweetest or the sharpest or the best for cooking apple crumbles. So again, Mary was involved in that, and I've seen photos of her amazing apple crumbles. So it's a nice little project that I hope we can repeat next year. And we're trying to just kind of celebrate this joy of local wildlife. On the left, we've got a slow worm that we found back in April this year. And right now we're all a little bit obsessed, not with bark rubbing, but just with mushrooms and fungus. And we're just getting out and getting arty with all of those and enjoying photographing them, celebrating them, drawing them, writing poetry. It really doesn't matter how it's done. We just share that joy. And then we go to, or I go to, a lot of health events, which I'm finding increasingly important. So as the community gains its strength after COVID, I'm going out to a lot of meetings called community connectors, where the fire service, paramedics, the hospitals, the GP surgeries all meet with people in the community, and we share information and we ask each other questions and we start projects and we get funding, and it's all going back into that community to help build that resilience since COVID. And I think that is increasingly important to what I'm doing. And yeah, a bit of bark rubbing. And it's all based around cups of tea and coffee and good conversation as well. So we're quite often in a coffee shop. Lastly, we're talking about stewardship as well, which is something that's developing nicely. So we go out and we observe and we have a great time, but at some point that love and that care and that attention that we're giving to all those beautiful sites we're visiting extends to practical action. And we've got a partnership going with a local field study centre that's become rather neglected since COVID. It's just because there's no time and there's no money. So as a group of volunteers, we've joined up with other local residents, and we're now spending a bit of time doing some habitat restoration and making the place even better for wildlife than it has been for a long time. So on the left, we've created a nectar garden, and on the right, we're looking at hopefully restoring a bee hotel, and it's just got loads of really good invertebrates in there. And our next one is in March next year. Just showing you the contrast in different journal styles. On the left, we've got one adult who is really wordy, and she just absolutely loves writing and ever smaller writing, pretty much every single word that's mentioned in each of the sessions. And then on the right, there's an example of my journal, which is slightly more cartoony, and I'm loving the colour. We've actually got Ian's footprint on the top there. Not very good, like kind of portrait of Ian there, who looks a little bit piggy, but he was okay with that. He wasn't too insulted. And so it really is just a celebration of anything and everything. And people are getting very creative, so it's a two-way thing. Again, going back to the sage on the stage idea, I really feel that I'm not teaching, I'm kind of setting the scene. And this is a beautiful example of work that was done by a member who took an old gas bill envelope and cut it up into little shapes and made a robin out of it, and just did loads of notes. And so she was playing around with collage and ideas, but then pushing back against all the pressure. So she was cutting up the envelope that a horrible gas bill came in and turned it into something beautiful. So that's it. I hope I haven't spoken too fast or rambled too much, but just keeping an eye on the time. But if anybody has any questions about who we are, what we're doing, I would love your feedback and thoughts. Thank you very much.
Sara, this was wonderful. It is so cool to hear all of the things that you're up to. Yeah, Billie Joe says mind blown. So this is awesome. Yeah, Kate Ryder's agreeing. She's saying so amazing. And I saw, and Sarah Byfield said she had to go early, but that she was loving everything that you were sharing. That she says your work is wonderful. So lots of positive. Yep, Yulia and Kim and Star. Yep, everybody's agreeing. Everybody's loving your work. Does anybody have any comments or questions right now? Just off the top of your head, and then oh, I see Star.
Yeah, this is just a really practical question, Sara. I said inspiring in my comments because it is inspiring. I'm just blown away by all the wonderful ideas, and I have a page of notes here to think about later. So thank you for that. And I think you're right. You know, I think I'm going to be at as many of these sessions as I can, because it's supportive, but it's also in a very practical way, you know, lots of ideas to float. So it's wonderful. My question, Sara, is, and this may not be relevant to you, but I just wondered, do you carry any liability insurance? Is that a concern for you at all? I used to carry it as a yoga teacher, but when I stopped teaching, I dropped it. But I think it's in the back of my mind. I think it sometimes influences what I'm willing to do and not do. So I just wondered about that.
Yeah, thank you, Star. Equally inspired by your work as well. And yeah, just hopefully we can continue to do that. Yes, insurance and various other practicalities have to be put in place, I think, to practice legally. I've got insurance with the Artists Union here in the UK. And so it costs about, I'm just talking about practicalities again, because these things can be prohibitive if you're setting up on your own, but it's £40 it cost me for the year. My conversion to dollars, I don't know, but it's not too much. It's affordable. Hopefully affordable, I should say. And then there's things like just being aware that there's a strong kind of US American kind of filter here, but we've got a thing over here called DBS checks. So it's like a police check. So if you're working with children or vulnerable adults, then the police do a background check on you to just see if you've got a police record or any kind of history that clients need to be aware of. And so you carry a certificate to say that you are eligible and safe to work with people. And then what I do as well is things like, you know, when I've put the hammock up, I'm aware that, you know, if people have got bad backs or bad knees and things like that, I need to be aware of that and just do the appropriate warnings and have risk assessments. But I try and keep it really useful. I don't do big, long documents. I have it just on like a card, like a piece of paper this big. And I get the headline stuff, and then I keep it in my back pocket, and I make sure that I do a site check regularly as well. So if there's any felling going on in the woodlands we're about to visit, we're aware of it. So it's all stuff that I've picked up through working in education over the years, but yeah, those things are in place.
Thanks, Sarah. That's really helpful. Yeah, I think it's something, depending on kind of which way I go, I might have to address that. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. Are there any other questions? And also really appreciate that question. Oh, I see Kate Ryder. Really appreciate that question about liability, because I know that that's been a question brought up with different educators. So thank you, Star, for bringing that up. And thank you, Sarah, for your notes about risk assessment and regular site checks and all of that. Those are really good notes to have. Go for it, Kate.
I was just kind of wondering, it sounds like you're doing a lot of different things because you're meeting very regularly, so you're coming up with new themes and ideas. I'm kind of in a place where I'm doing a lot of like intro here with different groups. I was wondering if you had a good suggestion for just like, hey, this might be the only peep time I see this person, and this is like a one-off thing. So that, because I'm kind of at a place where I'm like, I don't want to keep thinking about new ideas. I just kind of want something that I know is like a go-to reliable, how do I, introduce this in this kind of open, inclusive sort of way that you are exemplifying.
Oh, thank you, Kate. I think I'm finding that a lot of the time I'm answering with the words "it depends," because it does, doesn't it, really, on who those people are, what the weather's doing, the time of year, what they want out of it. But I am finding I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of a really very, very good introduction, and those little zines are very effective of giving one of those out for free when somebody comes along, so they've got something to take away with them. And the idea in my mind is that when they come for one session, I have no expectation of them coming for any more. So I try and just give them a flavor of what nature journaling is all about. And they might have done a bit of art, they might do poetry, but it's trying to just get that unique flavor of what nature journaling is in that session. And it's slightly different to everybody here at the forum, I suppose, isn't it? We're all going to have a slightly different take on it, but it's whatever it means to you where you are, and trying to convey that. And then in terms of a one-off, it's really, if they can go away with an understanding and an appreciation, and then something that they've created themselves in that time that they can be proud of, or at least know that they can develop into something they can be proud of. I think that's my aim for a one-off session.
Oh, and that's kind of a related question is, do you have, because generally I think you too, like I generally ask people to bring their own journal and their own supplies. And then I always have, it's easy to have extra colored pencils to share and things. But what do you do if somebody shows up without anything? Do you have something kind of already ready, or like just like a clipboard with some paper, or do you ever have that happen?
Yeah, I mean, on the Facebook group, I put once a week, I create a series of events, and then in the little write-up, I kind of say, please bring any art materials you would like to use. So that leaves it really wide open. People will turn up with like hundreds of pounds worth of art materials sometimes, and I've seen people just get out like an A3 pad, and they've got their latest watercolor sets and oil pastels, and it's all going on. And then by the end of the session, because they can't do that and walk and drink coffee and eat cake, that they end up kind of putting most of that away and just going for a graphite or a pen of some kind and a bit of paper. So I do say that you could technically do it with just a bit of note paper and a pen, but I do also have starter packs in the back of my car, so that if I am on site and somebody has just turned up, I can, for like a small donation, just to cover the cost of those materials, give them a starter pack. So it's like an A5, I think I've got an example here, an A5 sketchbook, pencil, pen, little magnifier, and some colours in there. And then that's an example of one of the journals we do. So you can have a grey or a yellow one, and you can just personalise it, and it's got a little stamp in it, and we just kind of fill it in with sessions as we go, and it's just builds into a really nice treasure on there. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so excited that you were able to present and share more about what you're doing. So great.
Thank you, Kate. You've been really supportive. I appreciate it.
Love those questions. I think that's perpetually a thing. Like, what do you do in just a single session? How do you possibly contain the fire hose of awesomeness in a way that doesn't totally overwhelm people, but still gives them like the chance to grasp a little bit of that to carry yeah, that's a super good question. Same with you. Those zines are just wonderful to carry. You're talking about the ones on the Wild Wonder website, right? The little
yeah.
We whenever we go out on group outings, I always carry them with me in my pack so that way I can hand them out to people, because they're I don't know if you ever have the experience where you go out with your group and then or you're out by yourself and inevitably somebody comes along, what are you up to? And bonus points if it's a kid who comes up, oh, what are you doing? And then you wind up like either handing over this little booklet to the parent so that way the parent knows that you're not being weird, that you actually have a legit activity out there. Or do you ever have the thing where like a kid wants to know what you're up to and then you wind up having to tear a page out of your journal so that way the kid can draw along? Do you ever give out those starter packs to the folks who join in your groups, or do you have any like sort of extra supplies for anybody who like encounters you? And I guess that's a question I'd like to know for anybody too, because I'm curious how that works for folks. Sorry if that was a jumble.
Yeah, that's fine. Should I start with my answer to that and then see if anybody else has thoughts? Yeah, in my rucksack, I have little square books that are a little bit cheaper than the bigger books, and I put a stamp on those. And then I have a couple of boxes of pencils in my bag as well. So if anybody stops and is interested, or they stay a little longer and they want to do a drawing with us, then they can have one of those. Or if anybody comes along and they're a grandparent or an aunt or an uncle of somebody, so they come along for the adult sessions, but they go, oh, my grandson would love this. I say, right, there you go, take them a book and a pencil, and they can be doing what we've done, and they can draw alongside you. And that seems to be quite a nice way of sharing that.
It's a really good idea about having the little booklets and the extra pencils. Anybody else?
Oh, one of the things that you brought up was this whole idea of how balancing work life, you know. Do you have any kind of concrete ideas, or does anybody else have any concrete ideas about how to integrate your own journaling in with the lessons? Because one of the things that I found works pretty well with one of the locations I go to is, you know, I get there early, I set up and I do the journaling session, and then I just plan and that I stay later. Because after, you know, everybody's gone but I've been in this place for, you know, the past 3 hours, then to just spend another 20 minutes on my own, even just kind of like noticing something, or, you know, kind of inspired by the other students, but it's not always possible to stay after. So yeah, just wondering your thoughts and maybe other people's thoughts on that one too. Because it sounds like you're super busy too. Like the other question is, how do you even keep track of it all? It's awesome.
I think it's in terms of work-life balance, it's because it's a passion. And I know a lot of people say this just before burnout. They go, oh, it doesn't feel like work, so I can do it all the time. It's not the case. It's a real joy to kind of get up and know that I'm doing something that I really, really love. So that is motivation to get up anyway and go out. I know that I don't get on with a desk job, so I need to be outdoors and I need to be moving and walking. So if I can go to a place where I know I'm going to be doing a session, then I'll go there and I can do my prep as I'm walking and getting that exercise and that nature connection myself. And then as I'm walking, I'm finding that, you know, it's that physical action helps your brain think better. So I'm then getting ideas and inspiration for future sessions, and I'm jotting those down as I go. And then I try and keep it as mobile as possible. So going back to this earlier version, I've now developed a laptop. So I've got everything on an iPad and an iPhone. So even if I'm out in the woods and I can get a good signal, I can sit down on this really nice bit of woodland, just enjoy the sunshine and actually send an email, and it doesn't feel so bad. Or I can make that awkward phone call because I'm actually in that hammock laying underneath the trees and they don't know that. I'm actually looking after myself, giving myself a little bit of nature connection time. I know that I'm incredibly lucky this year to have that support, to be able to have it as a full-time job, and that might not continue into next year. So it's going to be interesting to see how I look at that, keep the money coming in, and then keep that balance going, because I have teenage children. You could probably hear in the background that they're getting ready for bed and doing all of that sort of stuff. So it's juggling, chaotic. I don't think it has any order, really. It's, yeah, a relaxed, organized chaos, I think. It's the only way I can describe it. I wish I had more to offer than that. Nice.
I just wanted to pop in really quickly and just say, like, I'm super inspired by like everything that you're doing. I think it's super awesome. And some of the things that you're doing, and that, you know, you've sort of like had some of these things happening are really resonating with me right now, because I'm in that weird same position of like, what am I doing with my life kind of thing. And also work-life balance. So although I'm not working, I'm more busy now than I ever have been, doing a whole bunch of different things. And I was realizing last week, like, I haven't picked up my own journal in probably like a month, right? And so like, how am I finding time to do the things I want to do right now? I think I said it like last week, I'm just finding the time to like make sure I eat during the day. So like, how do I make sure that I'm also doing my own nature journaling practice as well? Because I don't want to get out of doing that, but I also find like I get really inspired by helping others like learn to do that as well. And so that also fills my bucket up, but I also don't want to forget that it also brings me a lot of joy as well to do that. And so I'm finding that same thing about like, where do I go and how do I sort of those steps to get, you know, into that next bit. And I don't, from the outside perspective, Sarah, it looks like you're finding all the right balances. So it's very inspiring for me to be like, man, okay, maybe this isn't crazy what I'm thinking about doing for myself. You know, it's hard. Like, I think for me, like later in life, like when you're 20, you're like, what? You know, like you have all this time, and now you're like, ooh, like you really got to think about it, and it's got to still be manageable, right? Like you have kids, I have kids, like most people have kids, and you're trying to figure it out, and you know, pay your mortgage and all those kind of things, and you're like, but you still want to do something that you really love and that brings you joy and that you can be an inspiration to others. And yeah, it's a big balance to work it all out. And it's listening to you chat today and seeing all the stuff that GOGA is doing is incredibly inspiring. So I was just thinking to myself, I thought it was interesting that you said that you needed to become braver, because to me it looks like you are like above and beyond in the bravery section. I also found it interesting that you were looking for a mentor, because I think that you are the mentor. You are the person I was thinking, maybe I need to be talking to Sarah. Maybe she needs to be my mentor, is what I was really thinking, right? So, you know, make sure that you're giving credit where credit is due, because you're really doing some amazing work, and don't sell yourself short. So if anything, for the bravery part, really make sure that, you know, you're giving yourself credit, because this is pretty awesome stuff that you're doing. Inspiring today to see it all and really get the full scoop of it. So really well done. You should really feel good about it, because it's pretty great.
Oh,
That's
Billie,
all I had to say.
I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna take that with thanks.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give myself a little pat on the back there.
You
Thank
should.
you
You should. Absolutely. Very, very awesome stuff today. That was just so great. I'm so happy that you accepted and you came to share with us today, because I think what you're doing is like not just for the nature journaling part, but like how in depth into the community that you're doing, and sort of putting that community piece in there, I think is really, really important. You know, I just finished up with my 8-week course with my grade 6s today, and I was just such an amazing thing. And I was having some conversations with the principal and stuff. And that's one of the things we were talking about, is that deep set of connection to not only the kids, but, you know, the earth as well. And that sort of connection to nature. And I got some feedback from the kids, and, you know, the overarching thing was, I said, you know, I want something that I think went really well, and something that can be improved. And I said, be specific. I said, and they're like, well, nothing. And I said, no one's perfect. So there's always got to be something. And the overarching theme was they wanted more, and they wanted it to be longer. And so that right there tells us, right, that the kids or people, is what they want, right? And so if there's, you know, folks like us who can give them that opening to have that excuse and to have that community to go outside, then I think that's pretty awesome. But you're right, like, how do we do that without burning ourselves out at the same time? And I think that's the trickiest part of the whole thing, right? So well done. I'm very excited for you, and I'm very excited for all of us for being able to like be a part of this today. So thank you again.
Oh, thank you, Billie Jo. That's huge. I think, you know, going back to that point of, like, I think many of us might have been closer to or experienced something like burnout at some point, you know, and you just get to that point where you go, oh, I can't, this is not sustainable. The amount of energy or the way that I'm doing this is not going to last. And there is something different about the way that GOGA works, in that it's not requiring me to put all of my energy into it. It's basically a little bit of effort here, there, key points, getting those events, organizing those meetups, making sure that there's coffee, making sure that there's toilets, having those conversations with people with bad backs and bad knees, or who might be just feeling a little bit kind of vulnerable, and making sure that that warm welcome is there and keeping that consistent. That's where the work comes in. Everything else the community sort of does, and it's one of the deepest joys to be able to have my phone on and see the Facebook comments and the photographs and the discussions fly backwards and forwards. And it must be the same for Wild Wonder and the Facebook pages there, that you just kind of go, wow, this is bigger. This is not something that you have to keep pushing and pushing and pushing, because that's unsustainable, right? Isn't it? The real joy is actually when people get it and they want more and they want longer sessions, and they're making it whatever they want it to be as well. And it's that's where the real privilege comes into it, that everybody brings their own thing, and you just hold the space, really, don't you? And it's great. It's wonderful. There was one question I wanted to ask, if it's okay, which was going back to this idea of, like, you know, the fact that we're adults, but we're also, I think we said it in an earlier session, that we are just well-conditioned kids that still need to be seen and heard and understood and recognized. That I'm certainly finding through social prescribing that there is sadly an awful lot of poor mental health, or low-level mental health, and chronic poor physical health as well. And I think nature journaling, while not being a fix, it's not a cure, but I think it has the potential to be a real asset in whatever community we're working in. And I'm just wondering, as a collective, have you got experience of that? Because I think I would benefit from your advice on that score. Like, what conversations are you having with schools, with head teachers, with community representatives, with faith leaders, that are kind of tackling these issues around mental health, around growing up well and strong and resilient, and how does nature journaling fit into that? And then, kind of as an additional question, which we can come back to, who do we talk to in the community as an organization? How do we help each other actually unlock that money or that understanding that is going to allow us to do more of this work? Because it's good, right? It's good what we're doing, and it's helping people. And I tend to, like, I'm getting so far, but then I would just really like that kind of community of educators to be able to kind of take it to the next step, or maybe take it into a direction that is alongside education and beyond nature connection, but actually look at social isolation, look at pain management, You know, all of those sorts of things that seem to be equally needed.
Mm-hmm. It's a great question. I don't know if I'm the person who could answer it.
I have just one kind of something to throw out there is,
Yeah.
so I dance hula, right? And my kumu, my teacher, she was actually involved in a study with the like the Heart Institute, local Heart Institute. And so it was like a very rigorous scientific study where they had, you know, controlled, you know, you have a control group and then you had a group that was dancing hula, and to see if it had an effect on healing for like different heart patients. And it did, you know, it really did show this like physical increase in health because it's a gentle movement. But, you know, there was also, you know, it's hard to tease apart all of the things that help, you know, because it's this group thing and it's the music and it's the cultural connection and it's a community connection too. So I just wonder if, you know, trying to propose that with, you know, a graduate student or something, you know, that having sort of like more rigorous, or maybe not you necessarily, but just out into the community, is that if that could happen, you know, having these sort of, you know, scientific studies to kind of back it up, you know, could be, I don't know if that's what you're talking about, but that's just kind of the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah, I wonder too, like if there's community partners within your town that focus on like mental health or the folks that are needing that. So here in Orangeville, we have something called DCAF, which is like Dufferin Child in I don't know what it is. Anyways, it doesn't matter. But it's all to do with like mental health stuff. So they have like psychologists and stuff like that there. So it's wondering, you know, if you could partner with them and then maybe offer up workshops through that and then see, you know, like what happens over time when they're going back and having those different sessions and saying like what is different, what are they noticing that's different about how they're feeling. Like I wonder if there's a community partner within everyone's local things, and because we all live in different countries, those are going to be very different in terms of what they are. But just off the top of my head, I think like it would be easy for folks who are like for us to, you know, be able to see the difference. Like if you're somebody who's been isolated, you haven't been spending a lot of time outside, so therefore your mind, it's easy for us to think about the negatives, right? Like it's easy to go there, it's easy to dwell on my knee hurts, my ankle hurts, this hurts, I can't. But if they're able to get outside, like I wonder what it would be is if your mind was able to be opened to other things, that it wouldn't be just wrapped in that negativity and what that impact would be as well, right? So is it mentally that your body just like stops kind of like thinking that way? Or, you know, is there an actual physical change? But that's what I'm wondering about community partners. And honestly, I think going to schools, like I've been really lucky. I've been going to my kids' school, so I have it in there, but just going and talking to a principal and being like, this is what I'm thinking. Like, what do you think about, you know, one class and coming out? Or is there a certain class that has, you know, some of your special needs kiddos? If I could come in like, you know, an hour once a week and just take them outside, let's see what it does. Let's see how it changes things, and then go from there. And I wonder if it starts off as like a volunteer thing and then kind of works into something else. I wonder if that would be like helpful as well. And I'm gonna stop talking because Yvea's here and she's always got awesome things to say.
You're very kind. Half the time I just make it up as I go along. But I say
we're all doing.
exactly. I say that we all do this in lovely harmony. We all are awesome making things up as we go along in harmony together. So thank you, Billie Jo, and all of you. And so and I agree with you, Kate. So like I was gonna say I really like that idea about looking for community partners for mental health. We have this, I don't know if this is US only or international, but we have something called NAMI over here. And so I don't know if there's other equivalents, but that's not something I've heard many organizations doing before. And that'd be something really neat to see more of. I know that there have been different conversations over the last few years since COVID began about how to address mental health within the nature journaling community, because so many folks were looking for that first because of the immediate concern of the isolation around COVID, but then some of us are a bit more open about having these chronic things. And it's true that nature does help or can help and can offer relief, but then it's also true that some of our conditions or challenges go deep and that they're going to stay. And so I find, I was just about to type this into the chat, but I'll just say it out loud. I find it can be somewhat of a challenge to figure out how to create a space where people who might have chronic mental health challenges can both acknowledge their challenges and also get support to access the things that might be hard to access, like having a good time in nature, because nature can be healing, but then there's also limits. And then there's the whole shame around, oh, I'm out here, I want to be having a good time, but X, Y, and Z just happened, and that's still heavy. Um, I'm especially interested in this conversation because okay, so as y'all probably know, I have these biweekly online meetups, Pencil Miles and Chill. And the idea with those are that folks can come and we can work on our journals, or we can share challenges within our nature journaling, or just chat and gossip about whatever crazy thing the crows are doing in our backyards. But almost most meetings, at some point, mental health comes up. And I'm not going to go spoiling anybody's what people share, because that's confidential, and I'm not going to go into specifics. But it does come up often. And because I'm not a licensed mental health care professional, patient, if nothing else, I don't always know what to offer. And I care about knowing what I can offer because I want to take good care of my participants and make sure that they're safe and loved and just cared for and held and kept safe. And so the one tool that I can really ever offer is listening and offering compassion or empathy or just validation. I may not always have the words, but if I can try to say to whoever's sharing whatever they're sharing that they're heard, then sometimes that validation, it seems simple, but it's rather profound. Because I know that a lot of folks, that's what that, when you have the mental illness, it's what sometimes is called an invisible disability. When you have a mental illness challenge. And so sometimes just validating or just allowing somebody to exist and have that can be really powerful. And I'm sure I have more thoughts, but I want to hear what you're thinking, Star. And Sarah, thank you for bringing up this question.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a really important question. I have this come up in my own group quite a bit. We just got 7 inches of snow last night. So we're coming into the dark, short days, and it gets more acute in the winter. It's interesting. I think people's feelings of isolation and depression really, really increase during these months, which is part of why I want to get really creative about nature journaling for people who are closed in. Yvea, I think you're doing the most important thing, and that's listening. If you go to a professional, what are they going to do? They're hopefully going to listen, but you got a wide open heart, and you have a beautiful way of reflecting back to people what they're saying. I think those are really important skills. I do, last week I ran through the guidelines for the meetings that I have. And I do find that helpful in creating a safe space, because then I think it allows people to share. They know everything is confidential. They know everybody's told to be kind. They know everybody they're not going to ask questions without reflecting on themselves first, et cetera. Those things are so critical. As we were talking, I was wondering if there's been any outreach to the art therapy community, because it seems like this would be a wonderful connection to have. They in their coursework, maybe they could have a nature journaling class that would connect the world of nature and the world of art, which is certainly what attracted me to this to begin with. But I think for both of those are really healing modalities, you know, and you bring them together, that's like double power. So I wonder, maybe we could send Jack. We're giving him assignment. Go talk to the art therapy programs. But it seems like a real natural to me. And to other, you know, to the psych programs and the social work programs. Maybe we could get some articles in some of those professional journals, you know, that would be really helpful. Because I think if anything, it's just that, you know, people aren't aware. I think once, if they even hear nature journaling, they'll go, aha, you know, it's a no-brainer. So that's all. I'm rambling. Just great topic, though. Really important topic.
And then I see Sarah wants to respond, but I've got so many questions and ideas too from what you're saying, Star, about like art therapy and finding that community. And I definitely think that there's going to be an increase in peer journals about nature journaling and its help. I know that we had somebody on a few months ago, our friend, okay, I know her name, Lindy. Okay, Lindy, there we go. I was going to say Wise Woman of the Woods or Words in the Woods. Okay, now I'm getting her and Rebecca mixed up, whatever. But she was doing some academia about that. And so I can see only increases in that as time goes on. And I think that Jack definitely, yeah, thank you, Words in the Wild. Thank you, Kate. And I know that Jack is already plotting to work with some educational institutes to make this a thing. So on Jack's behalf. But go ahead, Sarah.
It was really to pick up on a couple of things. Yeah, Star, I think you're right in that perhaps we need some academic rigor in some of the things that we're intuitively feeling when we're going out and leading these sessions, or even if there are papers out there that already exist. And I know that I'm just wanting to pick on Mary. We have conversations about this, don't we, on a Tuesday night, about how do we actually open those doors to those big organisations, certainly in the UK, like the NHS, like the primary care networks, who are coming to us saying we need to kind of help communities and help people who are dependent on high levels of perhaps medication for pain management, or people who are constantly going back to their doctor for antidepressants, and they're coming to the community and saying, we need help from you in order to get some kind of strategic overview. And it's not just nature journaling, it could be line dancing, it could be bingo, it could be just social chances to meet up. And it all helps with mental health, all helps with pain control. But the money doesn't follow the conversations because the clinical team don't trust us to do a good job. And I think we know that we do a good job, but it's just how do we prove that to those people? Going forwards. Yeah, if I could bring Mary into that, would that be okay?
Yeah, you know, I agree. I think it's a lot of them rely on scientific research and published papers, and as far as I'm aware, there's very little on nature journaling and the effect. But that might change because, you know, somebody's got to do one for her master's dissertation. So but yeah,
would that be you,
yeah,
Mary?
I mean,
do you have to write something for your master's degree on the power of social justice and nature journaling? Maybe we could get you to do it for us.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah,
you know, I'd definitely be up for it, because I think, I mean, I've brought it into my course already, and nobody'd heard of it. I mean, we actually do a module on nature connectedness and, you know, mental health and nature on prescription and that kind of thing, but nature journaling doesn't feature. It seems to be like care farming, horticulture, I can't think what else. Well, you know, wilderness, you know, bushcraft, that kind of stuff. The Power of Forest School, but nothing on nature journaling. It's not, doesn't seem to be particularly well known over here, in that sphere. But yeah, yes, watch this space. But yeah.
I just wanted to add, I think, like as a really small partial answer to the how do we prove it to folks is like just trying to get in the door. I have found nobody really gets it until they see it, and so trying to find ways, I love that you're opening up to donations and stuff too, because like trying to find ways to get yourself funded until people can see it and then they go, oh, now I get it. And one of the ways too is by doing, coupling it with like an educational presentation for schools. Like that's what I've been doing is I go in and I say, hey, I'm going to come talk about birds, and then afterwards we're going to go outside and we're going to observe the birds. And so kind of it's like the teacher's like, okay, I understand this concept, like this is normal, but then when we go outside, I'm like, okay, so we're not just like we're not just paying attention to the birds, because the birds all fly away the second we walk outside, of course, because it's a classroom full of noisy kids. And usually there's recess going on and they're like, there's no birds. I'm like, so what else would the birds see? We talk about how the birds, use their senses to pay attention to things. So like, let's use our senses to pay attention to our surroundings. And let's try to put that onto the paper as well. And then as soon as they start to quiet down and calm down, then the birds come back, and they go, oh, can I draw that one? It's not the bird we talked about. I'm like, yes, of course you can draw the pigeon, please do, it's all learning and it's all the experience. Yeah. And then seeing the kids when they come back in, the teachers go, oh, okay, like I get the value of this. Because I was emailing a teacher and saying, oh, you just, take your kids outside with, just a clipboard and a piece of paper and tell them to draw what they see. And the teachers were like, I don't know art. I don't know how to do that. I'm like, that's all you need to do. And so I do it with the kids and they go, oh, okay, we're going to be doing this now. I go, yeah, you are. And seeing that reflected back. So, you have kind of these longer studies where you can start getting, the funding that you're really looking for, but, in kind of the shorter term is just kind of proving it school by school is kind of what I've been doing. And also wanted to circle back to, we said something about Billie Joe mentioned with the special needs kids. A lot of people are kind of like worried or nervous about working with those kids. And a lot of people are suspicious that they're able to be brought outside and, manage out there. And yes, they're goofy. And yes, some kid is going to take off running and you got to call them back. And, you're going to have sort of these things, but it's so good for them to like believe in them and to trust that they can manage themselves, and to give them that experience and that sensory experience of being outside. And not trapped inside the classroom and being, and I was like, you guys are being citizen scientists and you're participating, and you guys are hardcore, it's raining and you're out here, and they're just like, yeah, we are, we're great, And so I think, I don't know, that's just what I wanted to share too, is like, so you just kind of, we're at a point right now in this, worldwide practice of just trying to get it in front of people and for them to see it and experience and believe in it. But yeah, those are some ideas.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I know. I've had problems talking to teachers because they immediately go, oh, well, we have to risk assess it, or we don't have enough staff to take them out, and it's like, but yeah, and then, you get the flip side, because I do cycle training as well, that, that I'm warned, oh, so-and-so's going, misbehaves and what have you. You get them out and they're the best kids, they're the best behaved kids. And I go, yeah, I know, it's because they're outside. But they just, there's the teachers themselves put so many barriers up that they can't do it because of this, they can't do it because of that. And it's almost like, learning only happens inside the classroom. And it's like, but, that outside is a classroom too. I mean, that's why I'm doing outdoor environmental education and, working with children and adults. And we've all said the same thing, that to get the teachers out, a lot of them, the teachers don't even like the cold. They don't like getting cold. They don't like getting wet themselves. So they don't want to bring the children out. It's, yeah. I think it's Eleni wants to say something.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. What a wonderful conversation. It's just so great to hear all about it. I was thinking a lot about this. I have done for a long time. And the context, for those of you who don't know me, is that I'm recently retired from working in university for 40 years or so. And my passion is really bringing nature journaling to the community. And the way I've kind of approached this is that I think of things as sort of side by side. Like, we can't be all things to all people. So even though I have, a degree in art from Parsons, and I have a certificate in art therapy from the New School, although I'm not certified as a clinician. So I'm mindful that those worlds exist, but I've taken an approach where I work locally, and so I don't call what I do nature journaling and art therapy, but it is nature journaling as self-care, and honestly, every setting where I work and offer classes, I'm very mindful of the language. So in some settings, self-care just sounds too psychological. So then I'll say nature journaling and doodling, or I'll say nature journaling for relaxation, or come on down and meet your neighbors, and we're going to sit outside and draw trees. So that's the way that, candidly, I deal with the frustration of all of the boundaries that these different professional groups have. And I understand that, especially in psychological services, they need these boundaries for insurance and all kinds of important reasons. But I feel that those of us who have the luxury, or maybe the privilege, to work outside of those settings really have amazing things to offer. I'll give you one little example. Just recently, I was invited by the Girl Scouts. I live in Princeton, New Jersey. I was invited by the Girl Scouts to help them with their art and design badge, which was like so cool. I love the Girl Scouts. That's a whole story. I always wanted to be a Girl Scout, but my school ended at 3:30. The Girl Scouts met at 2. I was never a Girl Scout. So to get their design and art and design badge, we built this little project around masks and Halloween and Day of the Dead. And then it was really amazing how people decorated their masks with nature themes, but then they used the mask to sort of channel, who they wanted to be. So it had a lot of self-care and play. Anyway, that's what I wanted to share, that it's wonderful to make links with these other professions and organizations, but if it gets you to where Sara has said she's crying in front of a laptop, I can relate, then we just go on that path. The world's big enough. There are enough people that will come to what we have to offer, and then we don't need to always be in some bureaucratic connection. If we can work at a senior center or a local Girl Scout or whatever. So I just wanted to raise that up a bit. And then even as, of course, where it makes sense to build linkages and get ourselves in there, that's good too.
And thank you, Eleni. I think, as always, your insights are just always very, very well received and so useful. Thank you very much. It's really lovely. And I'm just wondering if you've done any sketchnoting this evening. Where have you been?
Oh gosh, you remember that time when Jack was talking about his teachers, and I made sketch notes and I sent them to him? No, I didn't. I've just been sitting here soaking it in with my ears.
Oh, that's just as good. That's great. That's great.
It's just so great to hear about your work, Sara.
Thank you. It's been really good, and genuinely not possible without the work of this forum and without the Wild Wonder Foundation, because I think I would have been making it up as I go along and just kind of finding my way. So this experiences like this and networks like this are just valuable. They're huge.
They are.
I wanted to very, very briefly come back on one of those things, because I know that like time is running out, but the frustration that I have around trying to link in with these larger organizations, I think on one level is really financial, because if you are a small community organization and you can see that the money is there and you know that what you're doing is good, and you want to offer something sustainable, you can't really do that without a level of financial security. And I know that a lot of groups who are doing this kind of thing at a really low kind of grassroots level, going back to what Billie Joe was saying, we've got to feed the kids, we've got to pay the mortgage, and sometimes the only way we can do that is to fit into the Monday to Friday 9 to 5 thing, which doesn't suit everybody, hence burnout and all that sort of stuff. And it's just trying to think and do things slightly differently. And I would really love to be able to just have those conversations, have that data, to then unlock some of that sustainability so that we're working closer together in the future, but still maintaining our own uniqueness, our own superpower when it comes to nature journaling. Because I think, you know, we do, like you say, we've got a lot to offer. One of the things I wanted to just kind of sow a seed with for maybe a future session to feed back on, but I've very, very recently been asked to become a community mental health ally as part of GOGA. And this is a new thing. I know, thumbs up, Billie Joe, it's a bit daunting. But I've put myself through a little bit of training this year on counselling skills, just off my own back, because I didn't feel I was a good listener, or as good a listener as I could be, because I was always thinking about what to say next as a teacher. And so the trainings really helped me just to quiet my own mind and just really listen to what people have to say. And that's been mind-blowing. I've absolutely adored that. But it's then the kind of what next, because I don't want to be a counsellor. I can't afford to go off and do a degree. It's not the direction I'm going to go in. But here in Shropshire, we've got lots of organisations who are talking to people with mental health problems. And then this is a really good example of how the clinical team are coming to support us. We're now getting NHS money to give us in the community free training on mental health first aid, awareness of mental health problems, how to have difficult conversations with people who might disclose information or share with you that they're having a particularly challenging time. And then we are in the community able to support them on a low level, gentle, sustainable, consistent way, weaving nature journaling in as we go. So we're not advertising ourselves as a wellbeing or mental health practice, but we're actually just saying, I'm here if you need me, and we're a friendly face. And then the magic is that if those challenges are too much for somebody like me to kind of absorb and process and support, we're then given phone numbers of therapists, professionals, mental health kind of specialists, so we can say, I can't help you, but I've got a friend who really could help you. So would you allow me to give her a call, and I can put you in touch and we can pass you on up the chain. And so then hopefully if that works, it will be a really nice way of just seeing how the community can support each other as we're doing our journaling. So I know it's a distraction from the journaling itself, but I just think we're all humans, we're all bringing stuff to our everyday, and it's just a nice way of getting that network in the community going. So I'm happy to feedback on how that develops. It's very new.
I think I love that, like, I didn't even know that there was such a thing as being able to take a training to become a mental health ally, and that really catches my attention. And now I'm gonna want to do research to figure out how one does that, and how one finds an organization where you can do that, and how one even asks that question. Because I understand how folks might see that as being a distraction from the nature journaling, but the reality is that with some of our health stuff, some of it is something that comes and goes, and some of it is something that is just always there with us. Like, I don't know if anybody else has ever done the identity flower activity. I know Kate Ryder has, because we talked about it recently. And I'm sure that I've probably shared this before. It's the one where you put your name here in the middle, and then you do a bunch of different petals to say, like, just all of your different identities. Or if you're an Asteraceae fan, you do a bunch of ray flowers. Oh yes, Kate has hers. Excellent. Oh, isn't that
wow.
I love it. I just love it.
That's gorgeous.
So I don't know, it was a really wonderful project because I was trying to make some big career decisions. And so being able to kind of see like the positives and not seeing it as like, you're trying to like write a resume and it's the most soulless thing in the world. And this was, connecting it kind of to these natural cycles. So yeah, using those sort of like mental health adjacent sort of things that it's more self-led. I think of, I have been through some art therapy, and it tends to be you discover it through the experience of doing it, and so it's not a distraction from nature journaling. It's going to happen as part of nature journaling. You are going to understand these parts of yourself, or these frustrations, or these upsets, or whatever, and those experiences, and being a space to hold them is so awesome. But yeah, anyway, yeah, thanks Yvea for pointing me to that one, because that was really helpful.
My pleasure. I learned about this, full disclosure, I think people know this about me, that I have long-term mental health issues that I've had since I was a kid. And so I was in a mental health program for a bit of time as a young adult. And they had us, one of the activities was that we did this. So we put our name in, and then we put in all of these different things, like I'm somebody's child. If you're a parent, then you put in you're somebody's parent. If you're, maybe you identify as an artist, or maybe you're an artist hopeful, or just all of these different things. And then they had us put whatever our mental health diagnosis was on one of the petals, to say that that is just one part of us, that we are not our diagnosis. There's a reason why sometimes we'll say that somebody has schizophrenia versus saying that somebody is schizophrenic. They're not only schizophrenic, they're not their disease. A person just has that is part of them. And so, but the thing is that being that that's one of the petals, it also, like, there are times that we can move past our symptoms, and then there are times where the symptoms are just going to be there because that's just part of the petal. That's just part of the Yvea flower, or the whatever flower, or asteraceous, like multiple flowers, whatever. We are multitudes. And so the thing is that being able to have that, and being able to acknowledge that's part of us, it how do we say this? It's not really a distraction from the nature journaling. It's more like it's part of ourselves that we bring with us everywhere we go. And so being able to acknowledge that sometimes that's a part that can give us different kinds of insights. Sometimes that's a barrier. Sometimes it's a lot of different things depending on your day and your coping and whatever tools you have on hand. But being able to simply acknowledge that it's there and not be ashamed of it can sometimes be just, again, with being validating. It can be really validating to not have to be ashamed of it, I guess. I'm not sure that I'm getting that out quite the way I mean to. Eleni, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think that's really, really important. And it encourages me to share a perspective about that kind of links what you were saying with what Kate Ryder was saying, that journaling, it's going to be therapeutic, just by definition. But the difference between a journaling that's a session that's a class, as opposed to a therapy session, is really the facilitator and how she holds it and leads it. And so that's kind of that I've shared here before, that I'm not a therapist. So it's the nature journaling class isn't the setting for the processing of feelings, but it is the opportunity for people to notice. And so I have a lot of, after we draw, I ask people to just write some notes. Using Jack's questions, right? What do you notice? What does it remind you of? And then how do you feel about your drawing? And it gives them an opportunity to have a conversation with the drawing that really is quite there not even on the edge of art therapy, but it's totally art therapy. But it's the person becomes their own therapist. The person is in conversation with their piece, and they're then talking to their piece. And then I've maintained the boundary, And then, of course, I always add to folks, if what you've drawn, I mean, maybe they drew some leaves and maybe they are scary to them. I mean, it happens. Like maybe something maybe that tree reminds you of then, you know, then make sure that you have the resources to process that somewhere else, you know, that sort of stuff. And it's really, really interesting. And it sounds like we all are quite convinced, and I think it's correct, that it's therapeutic in its very nature, but then how we hold that space, and how much we want to get professionals involved. Yeah. And so what Yvea is saying about having it be safe enough for people to share, um, and then just owning the responsibility about that. So that's also another difference between these different kind of spaces. I love the idea of being a mental health ally as well. I'd like to learn more about that here.
I can find out more about the structure here in the UK and then share it with you and see if there's something similar over there. Hopefully there is. There's I love the idea of talking to your piece. This idea as well with a group, I really don't enjoy seeing groups, and I know they're necessary, but I wouldn't go along to a group having come from a very anxious and depressed kind of burnt out place to then see an A-frame outside a village hall saying anxious, depressed, lonely, come in here, because
Yeah,
again,
right.
yeah, part of your pride.
No thanks.
It's yeah, I don't want to go somewhere to continue to talk about how ill I'm feeling. It is one petal, it's one aspect of me. I'm Sara, and I have had this experience. And I think that's something that perhaps we need to be careful of if we're going down this health route with nature journaling, that we're not doing nature journaling to cure anxiety. We're just doing nature journaling, and that's it. And then you bring what you want to it. And then if we've got a little bit of training as listeners and facilitators, and we're part of a really strong community, then we're in a strong position to help lots of different people rather than a few small people, if you see what I mean.
And I like the idea too about the different tools that we're learning in journaling winding up being self-care tools as well. Especially like with the I Notice, I Wonder, it reminds me of, it brings to mind a lot of mindfulness practices, where like I know that it actually kind of reminds me a bit of DBT. There's the Wise Mind core unit within there. There's 4 different units, and the Wise Mind is one of them. So there's 6 different skills that you use. And I remember that the first one is noticing your thoughts. And then another one, so it gets very meta very fast. Noticing your thoughts, and then also maybe naming them. I'm not totally sure. I can't remember the order. And another one is sort of observing them without trying to grab them, like clouds in the sky, just letting them kind of float through and just not trying to control them, not trying to grab them, just simply noticing that they're there and acknowledging them. So a lot of our skills as naturalists can really mimic some of those things that we're taught. And also to say with what I'd earlier said about what our responsibilities are, to make clear this is something I'm actually struggling with to figure out, like, because like Eleni also said, like most of us are not therapists, and so being like having to have the weight of that responsibility might be too much. And so I'm still trying to figure out what my responsibilities are to my participants, and what I can handle and what I can't, and then what's fair and safe for them. So just to clarify that my ramblings from earlier aren't my answers. They're my process of trying to figure it out as the facilitator.
Yeah. Could I just add a little point there that do we have a minute, Yvea? Yeah.
Wow, I think yeah, okay, go ahead. Sorry,
yeah, because I know we're really over time. I think about the language of scope of practice, because scope of practice is kind of used in the clinical world, and liability. So that's why as a teacher, I'm really, really careful. It's not just about human boundaries, but I'm working in a setting, at a school, at a community center. And my scope of practice, in art, you don't use that language, but it's certainly the language from a clinical setting. And I'm here to teach art. So if you have a good time and you feel good, that's great. So that's why I'm also very careful about those boundaries. Yeah, because you don't want a person to overshare and then you're in a situation that you're not sure how to handle, you know.
I think that's really good advice, and managing the group's expectations as well, because we have people come along who have seen it as an opportunity to overshare, without necessarily being aware of the challenges that might have been experienced by other members in the group and how traumatizing it might be for them to hear somebody else's story. So it does get really messy. So I think before we start each session, I do say the reason why we're here is to journal nature. Please be aware that everybody's going through something, and you know, you're very welcome to share a little bit of your experience, but if you need more than that, then come and talk to me and I can signpost you to someone who could take this a little further for you and do it that way. Thank you, Yvea. I know we've like overrun hugely, but I found this so useful.
Thank you, Sara, for sharing everything that you're doing with your group and all of your insightful questions and what you've learned in the period of creating this, and also bringing up some really excellent and raw topics that we sometimes we struggle with deep diving into. So thank you for that, and for your honesty and vulnerability in what you shared. And thank you to everybody here for your sharing and your questions. And thank you, Billie Joe, for being an awesome co-host, as always. Joe's the best. Did anybody have any last comments before we close for today? And Sara, did you have any thoughts that you wanted to leave us with?
It was really just to thank everybody again, and to thank Mary too as well for your support for GOGA as well, because you've been with us since April and you've been coming along to so many sessions, invested in the community so much as well. And but also a wider thank you to everybody coming along tonight and taking the time to listen and to help answer some of those questions. And yeah, I hope it's been okay. I hope I haven't left anybody with too much on the mental health side to process, because I know it's challenging sometimes, but yeah, it's great. It's again, like rocket fuel, like food. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sara. And echoing what Billie Joe said in the chat, that what you're doing is really amazing. And we're very, very, very excited to see where GOGA.
It's like you go girl. You go girl. Yeah,
okay,
like that.
Sorry, because GOGA is okay. GOGA, you go, girl. We're looking forward to seeing where GOGA goes next. And thank you everybody for coming out tonight.